Hello and welcome back to Harry Shoots People. Today is a momentous day as it marks the 1 year anniversary of myself and my favourite camera, the Mamiya RB67. Ever since I first laid eyes on the 6.7 back in one of Negative Feedback's old videos, I knew that I had to get myself one, and about a year ago an eBay listing came up and I thought now was time to finally take the dive into medium format and buy myself one. Before we take a stroll down memory lane, I thought a little bit of background information on the RB67 might help. The Mamiya RB67 is a professional medium format film camera released by Mamiya in 1970. The name is derived from its rotating back element, which allows you to take both portrait and landscape orientation photos on the fly. The camera takes a 6x7cm negative 120 film, allowing for a lot more detail than 35mm. Widely regarded as one of the more reliable medium format film cameras, the RB67 is designed to sit on top of a tripod in the studio because it is huge and also very heavy. But for a lot of photographers, it's gone on to be used in most of their studio sessions, both inside and out. Personally, a lot of film photographers I look up to have used the RB67 and swear by it. So that was a massive green flag that I had to pick one up for myself. As soon as the camera arrived, I immediately wanted to shoot with it. So I put a roll of Ilford HP5 Plus through that night, and the results were lacking. Like I say, these images have been shot very quickly, just out of pure excitement to actually use the camera, with not much consideration given to my first ever time using medium format. This didn't really deter me though, as I'd seen what the RB67 was capable of, so I knew that I had to put a second roll through just to give it another chance. And just to increase my chances of liking the photos, this time I loaded up one of my favourite film stocks, Kodak Gold 200, and this time I was a lot happier with the shots. I did start to see that sort of medium format look with an increase in clarity and quality. However, this also being my first time using a waist level viewfinder, I was missing focus quite a lot, so that was an area that I did have to work on. Another roll of Kodak Gold 200 later, and I'd graduated. Given that it was my third roll and the other two I'd kind of messed up on, I was really surprised when this photo came out. It was in focus, exposed properly and framed quite nicely. Despite the camera being ridiculously heavy, as I've already mentioned, I did take it over to my friend Harry's for a quick shoot. I do quite like these photos. The focus isn't still spot on, but it is a lot closer than I was at my first or second roll. And as I mentioned earlier, the RB67 does have a rotating back, which is super useful for when you want to shoot portrait and landscape. But you do have to remember to rotate it, which is why the entirety of this roll all came out in landscape, because I completely forgot. I think these two are my favourite from this shoot. I can really start to see the detail with the 6.7 coming through. After a couple of rolls of colour, I thought I'd chance it again with some black and white, and loaded in a film stock I've never shot before, Kodak Tri-X 400. And I'm a massive fan of how these came out. I personally really enjoy high contrast black and white images, and I think I did a lot better shooting this roll than I did with my first black and white roll through the RB. With this roll, I shot half of it in the house and the second half in the Peak District. Looking back sometimes, I do think the photos that I've taken around my house are just of like nothing, but realistically, when I think about it a little bit deeper, I'm like, it's a situation that I had complete control over. I have all the time in the world to compose, expose and focus, and just setting up those basic skills was really important to me becoming more comfortable using the camera later down the line. That being said, I'm really happy with every photo in this roll, and I can already start to tell this is the point where I became more accustomed with the RB67 and just started to want to use it a lot more. And now throw all of what I said out, because roll 5 was basically a complete write-off. I took some pictures of my housemate Adam on Loma 400, which is a film stock I really dislike, and lo and behold, I ended up disliking the images. Also, I wasn't really comfortable taking portraits on the RB67 just yet, and I do think that shows. I do like this one picture, but I really wasn't impressed with the rest of them. For roll number 6, we went back into the loving arms of Kodak Gold 200. And these images were just test shoots for a photo book idea that I never really followed up with. Compositionally, there is a lot to be desired, but the combination of using a tripod and a waist level viewfinder doesn't really lead to great results, I'll be honest. I do like this picture of Adam. It's not the sharpest or clearest image I've ever shot, but that's not always the most important thing. I think the muddiness and the lack of clarity in this image in particular do work in its favour. There is a sort of like ambiance to it that is just quite nice. And I took these last 2 images just to finish off the roll. Not my favourite roll ever, but better than the last one, and that's all I could ask for. One of my favourite things about the Mamiya RB67 is because of like its size and the fact that it doesn't really look like a normal camera that like most people are exposed to, is the fact that people want to like look at it, people want to have their picture taken, and that's exactly what happened when my brother came to visit. He wanted his photos taken, so we decided to just do a quick little shoot with some portraits shot on Loma 400. There wasn't too much emphasis put on these portraits. Like I say, we were just taking them in my room, but I'm happy with a couple of them, especially the more close-up ones. There is a light leak on the last image of the roll, which does add a little bit of colour to it and make it a bit less boring. Since it's basically tradition at this point to shoot a good roll and then a bad roll, I may as well continue that into roll number 8, where we, for the 3rd time, shot Loma 400, and it just didn't come to fruition. The first couple were meant to be a series of portraits of Adam, just sat in my room. Which ended up coming out massively underexposed. And then I tried to capture the northern lights, which just basically didn't come out at all.
What am I looking at here?
Just the sky, I guess. For some reason this photo ended up being double exposed, which led to quite a strange and interesting result because it was shot landscape and portrait, I believe. I do, however, like this image. The motion blur and the lack of clarity really gives a sense of urgency that I don't think you would often get with a camera such as the RB, just because it's so big and so like unwieldy. It ends up feeling like sort of like a run and gun image kind of thing. At this point, it had been about 6 months into me having the RB67, and I felt like I hadn't shot anything I was particularly proud of, and I hadn't really advanced to the point that I was hoping I would be at. So when me and Nathan went out for a hike, I thought I'd bring it with and take some full body portraits of him. And I was really happy with these results. Looking back, they are the best images, but there is a clear step up from the last couple rolls to this one, and I could tell that I was getting a bit more comfortable composing for 6x7 format. Rolls 11 through 15, as much as I'd love to show you them, can't currently be seen. It's all behind the scenes of a fashion shoot and the clothes just haven't been released just yet. But keep your eyes peeled for that video coming out soon when they do. These 5 rolls, however, came out looking incredible. I was really happy with the images, as you'll see when that video comes out, and it really sparked an interest in me using the Mamiya a lot more. In preparation for a series of portraits, I decided to take some pictures of Maya in my flat just for roll number 16. Unfortunately, the images didn't end up being exactly what I was going for, but I was quite happy with this one. I like the contrast and I do quite like the lighting in it, and compositionally it's a bit more of an interesting image than I normally take with the RB. Since I got the hang of using the Mamiya inside the house, now was time to take it out. So for roll number 17, me and Henry took it out for a portrait shoot.
I'll just do slow.
You look really handsome. I was very happy with how these images came out. The focus was spot on and the composition was getting a lot better. The only problem was they did come out a little bit underexposed, but that's something I can definitely work on. Unfortunately, as well as this shoot did go, this was the day that the viewfinder of my Mamiya broke, and it still isn't fixed. Instead, I chose to duct tape it back together, and we're still running with that. I also started to make YouTube videos at around this point, so if you'd like to see this or the following shoots in more detail, those videos are already up on my channel. Rolls 18 and 19 followed suit, these being a photo shoot with Michael, and the images came out incredibly, and still to this day I'm still very proud of these images. The black and white did end up coming out a bit nicer than the colour, but overall I'd consider these some of the best images I've taken with the Mamiya the entire year. And just to finish off the roll, here's a bonus shot of Nathan taken by me, and one of me taken by Nathan. Rolls 20 and 21 were my first time shooting Harman's Phoenix 200 on 120 film format, and it came out quite disappointing, I'll be honest. If you want to hear my full thoughts on how this went, there is already a video up on my channel about it, but overall I was disappointed with the images. They just ended up coming out strangely exposed and with the highlights quite blown out, which was definitely a knock to my confidence at the time, but luckily I did have a very good idea for what to shoot next. And a good idea it ended up being. Rolls 22 and 23 were for a sort of fake Umbro ad that I did with Michael, and they came out pretty much perfectly for what I was intending. I remember being really happy the day that I got these scans back from the lab, because it was sort of my first shoot with like a concept, and to see it executed well and my ideas come to fruition was really, really rewarding. I'm not sure if it's some kind of lucky charm, but it just so happens that so far whenever I shoot with Michael, the images come out great, and these images are now probably my favourites that I've ever taken with the RB, and some of my favourite images of my entire career. This being the last roll that I shot before my 1 year anniversary with the Mamiya, it was a really, really rewarding result to see my progress go in a year from this to this. So after a year of using it, what do I think of the Mamiya RB67? I love it. There's no surprise it's my favourite camera. The images that it produces and the detail in these negatives is incredible. For a fully manual, almost 50-year-old camera, it just blows me away every single time that I use it. Whilst I personally found the learning curve of using medium format quite difficult, as you've seen, I'm really enjoying where I'm at now, and I'm really looking forward to buying some more equipment and lenses for the RB to keep using in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed this roundup of the last year with the Mamiya RB67. There's been some subpar rolls and some actually quite good ones, so I'm looking for more of those to come out in the future. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you'd like to see more of my photography, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.